6 o'clock, so we will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone. I appreciate everyone being here tonight. And the first item on the agenda is for our Pledge of Allegiance. And so if we could stand, and Becky, if you would mind leading us.
You're going to get me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Becky. I appreciate that. All right. So before you in your notebooks, you should see a copy of this evening's agenda. If everyone would take a minute to look it over, make sure that everything that needs to be is represented on the agenda, so I can get a motion.
A motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes, thank you. All right, so the next topic, item number 4 is approval of the minutes from April 2nd regular meeting, which we had received via email from Stacy. If everyone had a chance to look those over and had any items that they felt we needed to correct, I don't recall seeing anything from the minutes that need to be amended, so I can entertain a motion to approve the April 2nd regular meeting minutes.
So moved. I'll second it then.
Okay, any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, carries 4-0, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda for tonight is under unfinished business is the Board of Elections website. Last month when we were here, we had a discussion about getting our own independent website from the one that the county is currently hosting for us, as you recall. Stacy, do you want to bring us up to date on what you have found out, please?
Yes, I spoke to the finance department, and we do not have to have quotes from other vendors on that because it's under a certain dollar amount. And I suggest to the board that we go with the quote that we have because Pickens already does our flyers. It would be something that she could go ahead and upload all of that to our website. We wouldn't have to go through someone else. And the fact that she is currently already a vendor with us, we contract with her doing our meetings, I think it would just be best to group everything together under her services.
Can you remind us what the quote was, dollar
Yes.
amount? And
It's in your...
it's in here still,
yes.
okay, that is that, okay.
It is in your binders, and I also included a copy of the budget, and I would take this out of the line item technical services, and we do have the money in that line item to do so.
Which services technical?
Technical services.
And that would be the correct category based on the accounting department here?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
That's currently the line item that we take it out of for the
Okay.
videoing of our meeting, and we would just group all that together.
Okay, all right. All right, so if everyone would look this over, and if there is anyone who is so inclined.
Just a point of information, congratulations to Mary and One Year Business. Business of the Month last month, was it?
Oh, yes.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes,
Very good.
so they have a good reputation.
Absolutely. Does anyone have any questions about any of the services or cost of anything?
Well, I do. So with the, on the budget, so like have we paid for Mary for her services for the video and everything? So what I'm getting at is if I look at technical, we have like 6,000, where did I see that thing? There it is. Okay, 65, 87, 50 remaining. But how much of that do we need to pay?
I've already
In a way.
allocated funds. I do an open PO for a lot of reoccurring vendors that we have. So the money for her for the rest of the year for videoing is already allocated.
Gotcha.
In the amount that shows on there. So what was left, we would just take it out of there
Gotcha, okay, great, thank you.
for the website.
And I know you've looked at several websites of other counties, so is there one in particular that you're thinking that we would like to aspire to be? When we grow up?
I've told her, what I would like. We've talked about it, and we'll talk about it more in depth going forward with this. But I wanted to do informational pages. I don't want to have it to where it is accessible for people to contact, because we don't have somebody to man it all the time. I would rather them just to contact us through our elections email at the office. But we talked about maybe, a couple different pages.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's been a minute since I gave her the
Yeah,
quote.
we
I should have
still
looked
talked
today.
about this back in
But
February.
I really looked, and a lot of people didn't. I mean, some of them had not very nice things. It seems like was Cherokee one or no?
We looked at Paulding County,
Paulding, yeah.
and we looked at Bartow County.
Right.
But we don't think that we need anything more than maybe 2 to 3 pages. So nothing more than that.
Gotcha.
And it'll be good too to post the unofficial election results
Yes.
and stuff like that.
We'll be able to
and other
post
requirements.
The election results, we'll be able to post the minutes, we'll be able to do our
videos.
statistical report, we'll be able to link our videos, so.
And there will still be, I think we mentioned this last time, there will still be a link from the county's
Yes.
page to our new, all right, so then the only other question I guess is what is your working thoughts on a domain name or what have you, where are we at with that? Have
We
you done,
haven't-
so you haven't done any research?
We haven't discussed that yet,
Okay.
with the board just, giving me the approval to go forward into looking into it last month. We haven't branched out that far with it, so
Okay.
Mary and I will get with that, and see what's available.
Okay.
I have one question about that. The GoDaddy service, I've used that myself. It's not really cheap. Do they have a governmental business rate that does that come through you or?
I
do we
think,
pay
like,
that
if you
set-
want a .gov, like, on the end, you have to
Right.
pay a lot of money for it.
Right.
Actually, extra stuff with that, but, I can look in, I don't know that they have any,
Yeah.
because I do a church website and they're not getting break, but it's not that much they're hosting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but I guess if, and I know you talked about content management, I was thinking about that too. We might do it with the GoDaddy depending
Right.
on, because I think that's what I put in there. If, I'm going to maintain it or whatever, I need to make it where it's easier, and that might be easier to use
Yeah.
it. But it was still only 125. What did I put in there? A year, I think. Is
150.
Yeah.
yeah, so again, all that's a little inflated. Again, just
Yeah.
kind of a rough general idea. It might be cheaper again, once we really get down. And I can give a better quote once I know exactly what we're doing, and I can give a final quote before. But it's really not that, like I said, the domain and all that, it's not that much a year.
Mine's like $275 or $375 a year or something like
Are you using Microsoft 365 with it too?
that. No. So I don't know.
It depends on their different tiers, so it depends
Right.
on what all you need with it, but, the little basic one was,
Right.
you want it on a secure, well, I think I said that in this, I'm really sorry, y'all, I should have looked at this before, but, the security certificate, usually with GoDaddy, the first year is free, with it, but that might be a charge afterwards, which may be $100
Yeah,
a
you
year, but
have-
you've got to keep it on a secure, it's got to be on that or it won't even pull up on Chrome.
It says free the first year, 99
Okay, I
per
did put
year
that in there.
after, yeah.
Sorry.
You got that up. No, I'm just helping you. You didn't look at
It's
it.
all coming back to me, and I'm like, yeah, I think I spelled that out there.
You did.
But yeah,
You did.
so that would be the only thing that maybe then the next year it could be 200, a little bit more
Right.
because of that.
Because I had to get the domain name and the email separately and they were,
Yeah,
Right.
and then if you use the email service, that's a little bit more as well.
okay.
Which we
But you're
would
not going to
need.
need that,
No,
so.
we wouldn't need the email service because we have our emails already and those would remain. And
And they would just be up on the website for people to.
to send us
contact
an email,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
So let me, to follow up on some questions about the hosting. So it says hosting services $150 for the first year and up to $300 the following years. But then, I mean, the domain name, $20 a year, hosting $150 to $250 per year through GoDaddy. So the idea is that we're paying GoDaddy to host? or
Yeah,
we
that's
pay
why,
the
like, if y'all want
admission?
something happens to me and y'all got control of it, someone else can go in there, y'all
Okay.
have it, yes, GoDaddy. Yeah, y'all will pay them directly, not me. Like I said, I won't make any money. That was really for y'all's informational service. I mean, just so y'all know how much it would cost, or that's today's
Right.
cost, you know, but I can't imagine they're gonna go out that
You
much.
kind of reserve your domain.
Right. I know, I've got I've
Yeah.
got a couple websites.
It's just
with
that'll
GoDaddy
go,
Also.
that's just reoccurring every year, you know? You can't get, for them to store that, you know, out, or
Right.
to be accessible on the internet. And you have to have two different things. A lot of people don't understand the name and then the hosting. I'm like, I have a name. I'm like, yeah, but you have to have it somewhere.
Exactly.
So Stacy, do we have a timeline?
We would have it done before the November election, because I would need it in order to post the statistical reports daily.
Yes, and it would be better for me to work over summer, like instead of,
And I believe when we
because
first talked about
when
it.
school's out, everything's slower.
When we first talked about it, the timeline was the design phase, 2 weeks, development and coding, 4 weeks, testing and revisions, 1 week, and then the launch target date, this was again back in February, was April 1st.
Right.
So if we start working on it, you know, in the middle of this month, you know, we'll have it up and going before, I'd say, August.
Yeah, we can even just say June 1st and then know that it would be up by August, like you say, over the summer would be, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we get to break it?
Y'all want me to go out of the room so you can really talk?
No.
Go check the video later.
Yeah, then I'll listen to it later. That's true.
All right.
Well, it might make him feel more comfortable if I'm not here.
All right, so does anyone have anything additional? We could potentially, I guess, have a motion for up to a dollar amount for this website, and then if there was a need to come back and do anything extra, or we could just, I mean, if that's something that anybody wants to address, otherwise we can just have the motion if anyone wants to propose one for moving forward with Mary doing the website, and we can go from there.
I mean, you're looking at the cost of what, $1,700 to $2,500 for the web? And then you're looking at maintenance and then the hosting services. You're not talking about a lot of money.
No.
in the-
And it's within what we have in our budget, so we won't have to do a budget amendment for it, so.
Yep.
I think capping it might be kind of dangerous, so we may have to come.
Well, that's why I'm just tossing out
Yeah,
suggestions if anybody wants to.
So you still have about 8,000 in the budget, right? Yeah.
60,
Yeah.
67
63.
for that.
All right.
I move that we accept this proposal, web design for up to $2,500, maintenance up to $175 per month, and go from there.
Do I have a second?
So are we adding the cap or, I'm sorry, just to be clear, are you adding the cap to 2,500?
Yeah, I think if it goes any higher than that, we need to know that it's gonna go higher.
Thoughts?
Just afraid that may be a little short in today's day. Because even an estimate we got in February could be inaccurate at this point, because everything's gone up.
Okay.
Um,
So, would you like to propose a separate motion?
Motion to,
That's what I came up with,
Yeah.
added things
motion to
together.
cap about 3,800, which may sound a little high, but you want to come in under and not keep going back if we can avoid it. Does that sound reasonable?
And that includes web design, maintenance, and hosting.
Terry had her sharp pen.
Okay.
Well, and depending how we structure it, there might not be that maintenance, you know, I mean, there might be, every now and then, but it wouldn't necessarily monthly, but we'll talk about, or, how we set it up,
But we're
where
only
that's
approving it
needed,
for
because I
this
know
year.
y'all had some concerns about
Yeah, we're on
that.
budget for this year.
We aren't really approving this for this year. Next year will be another discussion, correct?
Well, no, next year I will factor that into my budget that I request, and there's nothing else that would have to be done with it, because would be a reoccurring charge.
Yeah, and this is some of the startup costs
Yes.
for it,
And
so.
are you comfortable with the 3,800?
With what we've talked about, this was just kind of like just a base price for us to give you some roundabout numbers. When we get into doing it, it might not even require as much, as this.
That's what
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable with, a 3,800.
It's okay to come under, yeah.
Right, exactly.
All right, so I have a motion from Becky for one figure, and then I have a motion from Ed for a second figure.
Was there,
I withdraw my motion.
Okay? So we have,
And I second Ed's motion.
okay. So Ed's motion was to cap it at 3,800. Okay? Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Mary, we look
Well,
forward
thank
to
you.
having you do our website. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully y'all won't have to yell at me one day behind the camera.
We will. Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is new business, and this is for changing several items in the bylaws. Just so everyone is aware, this is just to propose the changes. We have to have these out for 5 days before, the changes have to be presented for 5 days prior to making any official change. One of the things that was brought to my attention about these bylaws, and that needs to be updated, I believe, and Stacy, if you would help me, it was pointed out that there is the elections and registration information with the old address at the top. This was serving, I guess, as a piece of letterhead,
I
is
believe
that?
it was, they did the bylaws before I was hired, so whenever I was provided the document, it wasn't an editable document. So I think it just served as the purpose of the letterhead up at the top, because at that point in time, they didn't have the seal for the elections office. So that's all they had was that little bit of information. But I don't think it was meant to be put in there as.
Because typically bylaws
part of the
don't.
bylaws.
Yeah, typically bylaws do not carry an address on them, if I'm not mistaken. So one of the changes I would like to suggest is obviously that we replace that with our seal, now that you have the seal, for, which you can see on the front of your agendas, it says the Board of Election and Registrar, and then it says Pickens County, Georgia on the bottom. I would recommend that we put the seal on there in lieu of any address or anything like that. That is one of my proposed changes to the bylaws, okay? The next item is under Article 7, which is meetings. And because we did in fact vote by a majority to change the time of our meetings, we now need to reflect that in the bylaws. But I would also go as far as saying that instead of specifically tying our hands to the first Tuesday of each month at 6 p.m., that we make it be a little more open, that we have a meeting monthly as deemed necessary for the purpose of conducting businesses. Because I do believe that there are some months that we have not had a meeting, nor did we need to have a meeting because there wasn't business to conduct, and we don't want to unnecessarily spend the money to bring us all in if there is no business.
Yeah, it says subjects should change by a majority vote for any future
And I
business.
would suggest that we make the change, if you want to do monthly meeting as deemed necessary, put something about as advertised, because we do have to advertise it in the legal organ.
And it does have that in there a little bit further down, but however we need to, and
yeah, and
attorney, please assist us with this.
I don't recommend having the specific date and time in there because next year you may feel differently and want to change it to Wednesdays at a certain date or something. But to just leave it, monthly meetings to be set and advertised per the Open Meetings Act, and published on the website and something like that. I don't think you need to have a date and time in the bylaws.
Okay. So, again, we were not voting on these tonight, but the process will be that we're making these recommendations. Stacy will make edits to the bylaws, and then she'll send it out, and then we can vote on it at the next meeting. So,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. So, does anybody care to or have any wording or anything in that particular article, number 7, that you would like to have in there regarding the meetings? Based on the recommendation of our attorney, I would probably, again, that my understanding is it's better to not pigeonhole yourself on a specific date and time. And again, these were the original bylaws that were drawn up, so I think if we just put that we have monthly meetings as required or necessary based on having business to conduct or advertised or however you want to say that, and you can run it past Karen then to get, okay. Anything else anyone wants to say about article number 7?
Are you gonna remove that line? Said meeting shall be held on the first Tuesday of each month?
Yes. That will get struck for sure. Okay. All right, the next item that I would like to propose some sort of change, and I'm gonna need help with this one. Originally, it was drawn up that we, as the board, would be overseeing all employees. I think at the last meeting when we had the training, and it even further says down under Article 9 that the supervisor, election supervisor, which is Stacy, oversees the day-to-day. So in Article number 8, I would like to have it be where Stacy, or the election supervisor, is the employee of the board, but nobody else, and that somehow or some way she be the person who has the responsibility for the hiring and supervising, and because we're not in the day-to-day. And I feel that this is very confusing the way that it's worded right now.
And I think too, and I'll have to go back and check the local act that created the board and amended the board a few years ago. I think the way it's phrased is that the board hires the director, and then the director hires staff as necessary. So we would make sure it lines up
With that.
local legislation.
Yes, please.
Also, so.
Yes, because like I say, I think this is very confusing, and as a board, we do an evaluation each year on Stacy, but Stacy's done it on the other employees. And so again, I have no problem with the language about it being, if an employee or a contractor fails to uphold the integrity, like however that needs to be in there, whether it pertains to just the supervisor or if we have any authority or give that to her over any of the other employees. But I feel like it needs to be cleaned up because this is very confusing to me.
And
So-
another thing, under Article 9, under responsibilities, it lists the board, the election supervisor, and the administrative assistant, and at that point in time, when the new board was formed, those were the only 2 positions that was in our office. We now have other positions, like the technician and the assistant technician,
We have the part-time.
and the absentee ballot coordinator. So I think if we're going to list responsibilities, we might need to reflect that in the changes, since we're already making changes to the bylaws. I'm working on job descriptions for those positions that HR currently does not have. But as far as just listing them, I would have those in order to list under responsibilities if we needed to do that. If we don't need to do it, that's fine, but I just saw that that's
Right.
all listed and didn't know if we, since we were already making changes, if we should go ahead and do that now.
And that's something that I'll defer again to our attorney on. My biggest thing is I think that having your responsibilities and the board responsibilities are a must in there if we don't need everything else, because those roles could change. Again, I don't want to pigeonhole us into anything that we have to have this particular position or what have you.
And filled at a certain time.
Yeah, so it might be good to kind of list the positions but not have responsibilities or something. So whatever, again, would be in accordance with what we're supposed to do under the.
Yeah, and generally, even though like Stacy falls under you, like the other employees fall to like under human resources
Yes.
and
Right.
their rules and responsibilities also.
Yeah, it's a very unique situation in that the county oversees, still, they have to adhere to the county requirements. And so that's why I feel like cleaning this up is,
Yeah.
and again, only listing what we need to as far as who we are overseeing type thing, so, okay. And then the final item that I believe needs to be addressed in our bylaws is updating, and I don't know if it goes under Article 10 or if it's a separate article, is incorporating our public policy, a public speaking policy, participation policy, that needs to go in the bylaws as well. Because I think that is something that would be more,
Yes, and they need changing. I don't know if Stacy sent you like the court case that I forwarded her. There has been fairly recent court cases regarding, public comments. And I know like currently it says will not become personally abusive. It's a little vague, so, and one particular case that I forwarded, came out of Forsyth County Board of Education, about 15 or 16 months ago, that they had a policy that public comments, you had to be respectful to the board members. They found that to be unconstitutional. They found it's still constitutional to require that public comments not disrupt a meeting, because you still are having the goal, you've got to conduct your business, so people can't disrupt the meeting. But they took the position, and I guess you think about this a lot of times, like in zoning, like will they do the 10 minutes in favor and 10 minutes opposed, or that you have to hear from both sides. And by requiring people to be respectful to the Board of Education, that they were only allowing people to speak that were gonna say nice things about the Board of Education. And that people who have criticisms and are critical of the board and want to say so should also have that ability to say so, as long as they're not disrupting the meeting. So they found that policy to be unconstitutional. So what I would recommend is writing something in that people cannot disrupt the meeting, people cannot threaten board members or threaten members of the public, but stay away from, because people do want to go up and say that they, hate everyone up here, they can say that. Or they can say they love everyone up here.
is there anything as far as pertaining to like the subject matter of this meeting? Like we don't want somebody coming in to talk about the Board of Election, or I mean the Board of Education to the Board of Election. Like don't come in here and say the Board of Education is like the la la la, and then
Yeah, so
it's not our business.
There's kind of different levels of public spaces.
Okay.
So say like the public sidewalk or a park is, you're giving your much broader ability to say whatever you want to say.
Okay.
Once you get to what they call like a limited public forum, and a meeting is, you're still trying to conduct the meeting, or the business of the board. So you're given a little more leeway, you still have to be able to conduct that meeting, get through the meeting, which is why you're allowed to put neutral kind of time, place, like neutral restrictions. So one of those neutral restrictions, it could be that you have to stick to election topics.
Okay.
Or, anything having to do with Board of Elections. You just can't restrict it in saying,
Only nice things.
election topics that you are in favor of.
Right.
Or, I mean, I know
Exactly.
that's
Or
not,
for one party.
I
or-
know
yeah.
that's not what it says, but just saying personally abusive, that someone could interpret that like I can't be critical of the board, or, I didn't
Right.
like the decision they made, because they still have, it's election related, you want them to get up to speak, and they might tell you what they didn't like versus what they like, so.
Well, obviously, we want to make sure that our bylaws reflect what is legal
Yeah.
and allowed and that sort of thing. So if there's case law that we need to update these anyhow, I do also, like I say, feel that they need to be in the bylaws. And I may be on my own with that, but that's where I'm at. So is it appropriate for them to be in the bylaws?
You can put them in the bylaws, you don't have to put them in the bylaws. I've seen it both ways, that would be up to the board.
Okay.
Again, you can change the bylaws at any time. The only requirement is that any changes be published for at least 5 days before you vote on them.
Right. And that was gonna be one of my suggestions as well. Because
So
the
putting the,
policy was kinda out here floating around by itself to put it in here if it's appropriate to do.
Yeah, if that's perfectly fine, if you want to incorporate it in the bylaws.
okay,
But I will work with Stacy on
to
just
update it.
editing it to make clear, like, you can't be disruptive of a meeting.
Mhm.
You can't threaten anyone at a meeting. But I won't use words like respectful or nice or critical.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Is there any other comments
Yes.
about that?
So I have a question on the public participation policy. So right now it says that citizens, can make comments at all regular meetings. We've had some specially called meetings, so does that need to be changed? Or can
That's
we
up to
restrict
you.
it to only regular meetings?
That is up to you. You can do it every meeting, only regular called meetings. You can change these times with.
Yeah,
Whatever you wanna
And
do.
again, this is all stuff that we inherited because I believe everybody is new to the board. Some of it, Becky might have been one of the original, but it was created even prior to Stacy coming on. So, this is just kind of a matter of freshening up, cleaning up. So if there's something that you all feel, by all means, please share and let's get it done so we don't have to keep redoing bylaws because we don't want to have to do that either, so.
I think since we're required to publicly announce even special meetings as much as possible, that we probably should include those as well.
And I will say this, I mean, the public participation policy says regular meetings, but we have always had comments for the public during our special call meetings.
Right.
Yep.
So we've always allowed that even though it didn't say it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just take out
Yeah,
regular.
okay. So we'll add however it needs to say, any meeting, regular or special called, whatever you want to
At all
do.
meetings.
Yeah,
Do you want to limit to elections topics?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
That I feel is appropriate as well to include. You all feel comfortable with that?
Yeah.
All right.
I have two more quick points if I may.
Sure.
Under Article 9, the second page, about the fifth line down, it says that to take notes and write minutes of all regular meetings. Should we include videotape since obviously that's what we're doing?
Article 9, 5.
Article
About
9.
the fifth line down on the second page of Article 9.
He, she will serve as the secretary of the Board of Elections to complete, well, we have that contracted.
Right.
And the reason I think that to take notes and write the minutes is because Stacy or whoever serves in this position is responsible for taking the video and transcribing it, because we don't just have the video as the minutes. So I think that that's what that's getting to.
And I believe and correct me if I'm wrong, whenever the new board was first established, there was someone who, prior to me being hired, there was someone who took notes as the secretary, but we didn't always have, Pickens come in. That's something that we started doing after I got hired, was having her come in and have the recording as a backup to the minutes. So I think when that was originally written, there was no, occasionally there was, a video of it, but not always.
Right. So I don't think that we have a need to write the position of a contract person videoing in the minutes. Is that what you were?
No, I'm just saying that a video does exist, just in full transparency. We may ought to have that in there.
Yeah, and I know that when we did the contract for her to do the videos for us, that was a board decision. So it's reflected in the minutes from that time period.
Okay.
And then we can always, when we do our website, we can always include, that you can go to the links to our videos we can put there, and then we can put that, you can find them on Pickens as well.
Right, okay. Okay, and my second point is, I would just suggest we do a date of update on our revision and perhaps a version number, because if you do go to court, God forbid, it's nice to know when the policy started.
Right, that would fall on the last page, if I'm not mistaken. Under the adopted, it'll go underneath there with the updated
Okay.
or
Do we
amended.
know if there's a version of this one? Or are we just gonna start with like version 2024 dash 1 or
Is
something?
this the first version?
This
Yeah.
is the first version.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's from, July of 2021.
Okay.
So that would be the first version, so underneath there
It
would
says adopted
reflect.
by.
That would
Okay.
updated, yeah.
Well,
Oh, I see it.
isn't it gonna
Okay.
say revised and restated? I mean, the title will become revised and restated rules of
Yeah.
procedure regulations, blah, blah.
Yeah, yeah, so. Okay. All right, any other comments or suggestions of updates to these bylaws? And then prior to the next meeting, we would follow whatever procedure to make sure that they're out there for 5 days. And if we don't, if,
We have to go on the website up by now. Can you get that
if it's not completely because of election and other things, it's just something that we got to acknowledge is in the works, and we make these changes so that we have it.
Should we do a motion to table until next month to?
Well, so I was just
Accomplish
talking to her, I
things.
didn't know when the website was getting up, because once that happens, it'll be very easy for Stacy to put this information, up there and out there. I know it's
I can-
harder right now.
I can reach out to the county and see if they can post it for us once we get a final revision of it. And then Mary, I'm sure, could post it for us on her No Pickens, so that would reach more people as well.
If there's a way to make it and fulfill the requirements before the next meeting, then by all means, obviously, let's plan to do that. If we have to figure out a way to get it published somewhere for the 5 days, and we don't get it done at the next meeting, then we'll, address it as soon as we can at a subsequent meeting.
So that was gonna be my question, so it doesn't have to be published in the progress, it just has to be published somewhere?
For people to see it, and that's actually your own rules too, but just so that people know that changes are coming. And then if it hasn't been published for 5 days, you can still discuss it. It will just go into effect at the next voting.
So you bring up a question then, I guess, for me, if I can ask. You said this is our own rule. Is this under Article 11? Is this standard?
There is usually, and I'll check Robert's rules too on bylaws. I can't tell you off the top of my
Right,
head.
me either.
There usually is some requirement of either it has to be like a supermajority vote on it, or everyone has to be present before you vote on it, or something that is a little bit more difficult than just taking,
We can't
throwing
just
it on
do it carte
agenda
blanche,
and
yeah,
stuff.
I gotcha, okay, okay. So whatever requirement, I think that we might need to fulfill, obviously, that we make sure to properly amend these bylaws needs to be handled that way, so.
Yes, one final point. If there's anything, I don't think the governor's finished signing legislation from this year, is that correct? So we don't want anything that would not get included that would possibly affect it from that. I don't know if there's anything that would.
Don't think there is, and as of yesterday, he had not signed, other than the public service commission, I don't think he's signed, nor has he vetoed.
They're just
an
waiting,
election.
yeah.
Right.
And I don't know the exact date, I think it's till around May 15th. He has basically 40 days
Right.
when he got it, or the end of the session.
Yeah.
So I think that's around May 15th, so if he doesn't veto, then they go into effect July 1st. Unless it's
All right. Well, I feel like this was something, like I say, that needed to be addressed, and we will make sure that we keep these cleaned up and there's no question because some of it is still a little confusing, so we'll get that taken care of, so. All right. The next item on the agenda is staff comments. Stacy?
So early voting started last Monday, or a week from this past Monday, April 29th. We are into our 8th day of early voting. We've had a total of 301 advanced in-person voters for this election. We've sent out 199 absentee by mail ballots and we've received back 80. I just would like to remind our board members, when you're coming in to work the lunch shift to help relieve the poll workers so they can take their lunch, we're able to swap out easier on greeters and guides. So that's why we can easily bring a board member in at one of those positions and let the poll workers take their lunch and get back quickly. So just know that whenever you come in to work, those will be the ones, the positions that you will be working. With our office, we do have to be careful because, you know, we can't favor one party or another. So therefore, we can't have one board member come in and be on poll pads and then not let every board member come in and do that. So therefore, that when we don't have equal representation, we do that. The one that we don't have to worry about, we just put the board members on both of those positions and rotate from there. You'll get your assignments from the poll manager when you come in. She'll let you know, she or he will let you know, what it is your assignment's gonna be. But this is only during early voting. We don't do this during election day because early voting is 17 days. So we have more time to give the poll workers a little bit time to take a break, go use the restroom, and sit down and have a bite of lunch. We're on election day, it's so busy, there's so many things to cram into one day, we don't have the time to actually let somebody sit down and take a lunch then. Also remember that when you are working as a greeter or a guide, we've had a couple issues with poll workers, and I just want to remind board members when they're acting as a poll worker to relieve the poll workers for lunch, we can't answer any questions that voters have about the ballot. If they come in and ask us about a candidate, we've had several people ask us, well, you know, can you tell us something about the Board of Education candidates? We can't answer those questions. Anything that's on the ballot, we can't talk to them about. We can instruct them on how to use the voting machines and what to do with their ballot once it's printed out, but we can't go into detail about the candidates or anything on the ballot. And then also, we did have an inspector, a state inspector, come in last week and inspect our polling location. We had someone come in back in March and inspect, and there was 1 or 2 signs that we did not have that we currently have now. They're put up. So they did a re-inspection. We scored 100, so we were happy to have scored that. But also, just remember, because we've had an issue with poll workers that were not on duty to work that day coming in, and they're not coming in to vote, but they might just be in the building. I know a lot of people go in and walk at the rec center. If you're not there to work as a poll worker, if you're not there as an official poll watcher with a letter, you cannot be inside the enclosed space. So if that inspector comes in and we have somebody in the enclosed space that's not on the list of people that's supposed to be working, and they ask to see a letter for a poll watcher, the poll watcher doesn't have it, they can't be in that enclosed space. So just keep that in mind whenever you are working as a fill-in at lunchtime. And then because of low turnout, I don't think that we're gonna need board members to cover lunch for the rest of the time for early voting. After tomorrow, I'm gonna let Rick work tomorrow because he's the only board member that has not worked yet. So after tomorrow.
I asked permission in advance though.
I don't think that we're gonna need we're not having a rush of people. I mean, we're only averaging about 30 people a day. I mean, today we had 56, and we felt like that was busy compared to what we've had. So I think what we'll probably do is after tomorrow, we just won't cover for lunch. I told them if it gets really busy to call me, I'll run from the office over there and help cover for lunch. But I really don't see it getting, any busier than what the 6 poll workers that are there can handle right now. November will be a different story.
What about Saturday then? Would you be available?
Yeah, we're in our office on Saturdays.
Okay.
Yeah. Anytime that the polls are open, our office has to be open as well. So, and then also just a reminder that early voting will continue the rest of the week. Rest of this week through Saturday, and Monday through Friday of next week. Election day will be May the 21st. I would like to remind the public that there will be no voting on election day at the rec center. On election day, you will always vote at your assigned precinct. If you have any questions about where your assigned precinct is, give us a call at the office or come by and we'll be happy to find that information out for you. And I will be sending out board member assignments for election day to you next week through email.
Are you riding with me?
I know. I'm looking over here because all of a sudden.
You got real quiet over here.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Stacy, and I appreciate you.
Actually, I enjoyed this.
I appreciate all of you in the office and the poll workers and everybody's doing. We definitely don't want to ask for any trouble with anything, and those items that you mentioned, obviously, we don't want to get a state election board case. We don't want, so if anybody sees or knows of anything going on, by all means, let's make sure that we let Stacy know and nip it in the bud, or not be a part of let's be part of the solution here and make sure that those things aren't happening.
And I will just let you know, I've had a couple, we have several precincts that we have new poll managers at. We've got a couple precincts that we're having to try to regroup and restaff. One of those precincts is going to be Tate, and I don't have a manager there as of right now, so I'm having to send Rhonda on election day to work as the manager. I have someone that's going to be stepping up to take that manager role on, but they've never done it before. They've only worked one election, so they're actually going to be training with Rhonda during this election. So Rhonda will not be in the office with me on election day. She'll be at the precinct. But we also have another precinct that we're having to try to change some things up and figure some things out. So I might, if it's one of your assigned precincts, that I might have to get you to spend a little extra time making sure that they have everything that they need. But I will let you know whenever I do the assignments for the board members.
Good deal, good deal. All right. Next item is public comments. Anyone have anything they'd like to share? Thoughts?
Nope.
No? Mac, anything? No? Okay. Mary, any? All right. Okay, the next item on the agenda is board comments, and I will start down here with Ed. Do you have anything you want to?
I really appreciate all the people coming in for doing the early voting, and it's just been good as far as just trying to find something to talk about or do. It's just been really, the day I was there, it started picking up in the afternoon a little bit, but boy, it was slow. So I'm encouraged that at least we're up to 301. That
Yep.
kind of surprised me, actually.
Yeah, I think it took 7 days for us to even meet 250.
Yeah. So I just hope folks do their due diligence, because if everybody comes in on voting day, as long as it takes per voter, it's gonna be kind of tough.
And I know you asked about Saturdays, but Saturdays seem to be our slowest days of the entire week. This past Saturday, we had 19 voters come in on Saturday.
Yeah, I just want to
So-
make sure somebody was available.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm not always around, but other than my days I told you about, I'll be out of town. Let me know if you need something.
Thank you. Terry?
I just appreciate everything y'all are doing. And when I worked over there for the early voting, everybody was very professional and worked out great. It was pretty slow. I think we only had 4 voters during the 2 hours I was there, and it was during lunchtime when you'd think that's when people would come in, but.
Right, and I think that's the theory behind us going, is expecting that we would have people, so I understand why you're saying we probably don't need the lunch coverage because they're able to swap out because it's not like there's a bunch of people. I hope that more people will come and vote, whether it be early voting or, election day itself, because, there's some races here, local, that people need to get out and vote for. So anyway, thank you again, and the staff and the poll workers. Everybody's doing a great job. So, Rick?
Well, I've been MIA, but thank you. I'll give my day tomorrow.
Becky?
Oh, well, at the end, what everybody else said, and the day that I worked there, we probably had 10 or 12 people. So I guess we had a busy day that day. But I really enjoyed it.
We've averaged about 30 people per day, but today, like I said, we had 56, so we felt like we were really busy.
Well, if you get busy and you want somebody to come in, just give me a call.
Yeah, if it starts to pick up, then I will let the board know. I know this week, because we were so slow, I went ahead and cut one of the poll workers for each day, but then we had the board members to make up for the extra person at lunchtime. Next week, I haven't cut anybody yet, so I'm hoping that it picks up next week, but we'll just play it by ear and see how it goes.
Next week's the last week, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
One final point, just from me, if I may. I've obtained a second phone at council's suggestion, I believe. And, but the first time getting it working didn't work out so well. Apparently you have to have a separate Apple ID. So I'm working on getting it ready, but if you get a message from me, I've got a new number, that's what
Okay.
it is. It'll be strictly from the counties.
Okay, very good. Thank you for letting us know, because when I get a random number, I usually say, who's this?
Yes.
I don't even let them ask that. Go to voicemail.
Right. All right, well, I guess there is no additional business on the agenda for tonight, so I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I?
Second.
They were like jumping a bit. Any additional discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion, meeting adjourned. Thank y'all.